This has been not a saga, but it hasn't been an easy process getting these planes into New Caledonia. But today, the government's enjoyed success. Two planes, Australian military planes, landing in Noumea and then returning to Brisbane to land tonight. Now, we don't yet know exactly how many Australians or others are on board. Originally, the government said it was around 300 Australians stranded in New Caledonia who'd registered with the Australian government and said that they'd like some help to leave. But that number may not capture everyone who's actually in Noumea who wants to go. It's quite possible there are a fairly substantial number of Australians who are in New Caledonia who'd like to go who haven't yet registered with the Australian government. And then on top of that, of course, Beverley, it's worth remembering Australia's made it clear it's willing to help out other countries, including countries like the United Kingdom and Fiji, who've got their own nationals stranded in New Caledonia who may not have a way out at the moment. So I think it's safe to assume that, let's say there's perhaps a couple of hundred people, perhaps slightly fewer taken by these two planes coming in tonight. And then on top of that, I think we're very likely to see a demand for further flights, which Australia has said they would like to put on tomorrow and perhaps the day after. But we'll simply have to wait and see if they get permission from the French to land and when that happens.
How concerned more broadly is the government about the situation there?
Look, pretty concerned. Obviously, this has been a disastrous and catastrophic week for New Caledonia. We've seen the full depth of the political divisions in the territory, and most importantly, of course, we've seen catastrophic violence. Now, the damage that it's done to New Caledonia's infrastructure, to its businesses, is untold. It's probably even a bit early to start talking about the damage bill, Beverley, because the unrest is still persisting. I mean, it's much less dire than it was a week ago when this first really did kick off in New Caledonia. The French government is sounding increasingly confident that they're slowly reasserting a level of control, not least because it's flooded New Caledonia with large numbers of sometimes fairly highly armed French police. So the situation's better than it was, but we're still seeing pretty persistent outbreaks of unrest. We're still seeing some shops being looted. We're still seeing some buildings put on essentially lit on fire. Some neighbourhoods, particularly around the surrounds of the capital, Noumea, are still essentially no-go areas for police. And on top of that, whilst we have seen a large numbers of roadblocks taken down, others have sprung up in their wake. So, yes, the situation is better. Yes, I think it's probably true to say that France is slowly regaining a level of control, but the situation is by no means back to normal, and peace has not yet found its way to the streets of New Caledonia. This could still have a ways to run yet.
Stephen Richard Marles, the Defence Minister, is visiting Honiara, and it's interesting there the new Prime Minister has said there will be some form of security review. What do you think that might mean for the relationship?
Yeah, this review has actually been flagged before by the previous government, but obviously the new government is pressing ahead with it, which is interesting. Now, what does it mean? We simply don't know yet. It does sound like the government of Solomon Islands wants a root and branch review of its core security priorities. Now, what else do we know? Not much, other than that Mr. Marles has said today that Jeremiah Manele, the new Prime Minister, wants climate change to be a key focus of it. I think it's also safe to say that an awful lot of fairly substantial and important decisions that Solomon Islands is going to make around security will be wrapped up in this overarching review. So, for example, we know that the former Prime Minister, Manasseh Sogavare, was keen for Solomon Islands to get its own armed forces. Mr. Manele has neither embraced nor backed away from that. He's simply made it clear to Richard Marles that he wants this proposal to be looked at as part of the security review. So Solomon Islands would presumably make a decision on that matter one way or another through the security review. Another equally consequential thing that's going to get wrapped up into this security review is the question of whether Australian police, who are already in Solomon Islands as part of an additional deployment under the SIAF, whether they will stay longer under SIAF now the election period has run its course. Originally, that additional deployment was only going to run up to around June 30. Now, we know that that's probably going to wind down through July and August. But Mr. Marles said today that Australia would still be keen to keep additional AFP personnel beyond those that are through the bilateral program. That Australia would be open to keeping them in the country even longer. But again, that's something that's probably going to have to be signed up under this security review that's being done by the government of Solomon Islands. So there's an awful lot that seems to now be being drawn into this broader umbrella. Exactly when it starts, how long it will take, we don't know, but it sounds like it'll probably be wrapped up fairly rapidly. And unsurprisingly, Australia's going to be watching it very closely indeed.
Good to talk as always, Stephen. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Beverley. Really appreciate it.